To get to Bull Creek, almost everybody has to go through Coulterville. It's a very interesting little town, has a lot of history to it, but depending on what time you arrive, you may see all kinds of different local characters and sites in the town. There's a Jeffrey Hotel. You can actually rent a room there. They've got a museum in town when that's open, and other interesting sites that you can see while you're there. This is the map that will show you how to get from Coulterville up to Greeley Hill, then along Greeley Hill Road, finally to Bull Creek Road, which is partially dirt, and finally to the Kawana Valley Lodge, where we stayed. This is really the only place to stay in the Bull Creek area. Go to the end of this presentation and you'll see some more information about the lodge, but it was really a pretty good place to stay. I recommend it. Two good places to visit along the way to Bull Creek are the Bauer Cave, which is a pretty easy hike. It's up a small hill. It's only about 250 yards. You can't go in the cave, but you can view down into the grotto there. And this is what it used to look like in the early settler days. They had stairways down there, and they had a dance floor at the bottom, and they had parties there. Another good place to stop is Diana Falls. And this is only 0.7 miles in terms of a hike, relatively flat, and it's a very nice spot. There's a swimming hole there, and of course the water flow depends on what time of year you're there. Directions on how to get to the Bauer Cave and Diana Falls are at the end of this presentation. After going through Coulterville and Greeley Hill, we're on the Coulterville Road right now, and the Bauer Cave entrance is not marked, but this is what it looks like. You have to watch for this stone monument right here that's now in the center frame, and there's a little trail that will take you up there. Hopefully the gate that leads you to the property is not locked. You can't enter the cave, you're not supposed to. It's dangerous to do so, but it's very interesting up there. There's a Miwok legend that it's the origin of all life. It comes from the Bauer Cave. In the early days, settlers went up there, and they actually made it into like a little tourist attraction. They had a dance hall floor that they put in the bottom of the cave, and they had parties and all kinds of things up there. My wife and I and Cody were along Bull Creek, a pretty remote location. We're going to spend a couple of days here looking for evidence of a Miwok village that was supposed to be very close to this area. And if you look down the creek and you see that hat sticking out of the water there, that's my wife. She's just cooling off in the water while I'm out here looking for bedrock mortars. And in fact, I found some right over here. Well, this is the first location where I found some bedrock mortars. There's 4 right here, and they're only about 10 yards away from the creek. Move down here a little bit and you can get a good view of these. There's one there, there's one over there in the shadows. Here's one that you can see. There's a nice water ring in white that highlights the bedrock mortar. And Cody and I have hiked up Bull Creek a little bit further. This will give you an idea of the kind of terrain and kind of a wide area here on either side of the creek. And there's a nice big rock right there, nice big flat rock, and then there's one here too that would be a pretty good place for a bedrock mortar. And in fact there is one right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but what I'll do is put some water in it, and then I think it'll pop out pretty well. Alright, here's that same area where there was a bedrock mortar before. It was a little hard to see, but I put some water in it, and as I zoom in, especially when I zoom in with the water, I think you can see it pretty clearly now. A short walk from the lodge and up a little bit of a hill. There's a little stream that comes down, flows over some natural rocks right here, and flows into the upper swimming hole. A little dam has been built right there where you can see the railing, and then there's a porch over there, a couple of benches, and some nice, really cool water. in the swimming hole. This is the meadow area near the lodge. And we've hiked up here looking for some more bedrock mortars. And let me pan right down here. And you can see this nice outcropping of rock. And let me zero in. And right in the middle of the frame, you should be able to see 4 bedrock mortars. Well, this is the area that we're going to search. There's a lot of granite here, as you can see up on the hillside. And then there's a big granite outcropping that stretches for quite some distance. Of course, there's some grass here, but here's some more of that granite outcropping. And we expect to find a lot of bedrock mortars here. I don't know if you can hear the stream, Bull Creek in the background, but it's not too far away. Over the edge of the granite and down where those trees are, that's where Bull Creek is. There's quite a few bedrock mortars on the top of this granite outcropping. It's very close to Bull Creek. Here you can see 4 very clearly. Just walk over here, there's another one right there. If we come over this way, there are quite a few, and they're fairly shallow though, which probably means that they weren't in use very long before they were abandoned. So in total I found over 30 of these bedrock mortars on this big granite outcropping. Here's a better view of the creek, and as I get closer to the creek, down at this spot right here in the shadows, now coming into view, I cleaned this out just a little while ago, and you can see another really large bedrock mortar, or it might be almost considered a basin. This is almost 2 feet wide. Basins typically are about 3 feet wide. So this falls somewhere in between a bedrock mortar at 6 inches wide and a basin at 3 feet wide. There's Cody, of course, enjoying herself in the water. And behind this enormous rock, I had gone down there earlier, and there was one basin down there, a couple of bedrock mortars, and what might be some ovals. I'm going to have to check with some experts to see whether or not this really classifies as a actual oval. Okay, here's the road, and you can use this rock as a landmark. If you can pick this rock out and see this particular trail, it's not much of a trail, but this is the trail that'll take you to the Indian bathtubs. It's worth seeing if you can find it. Okay, we're standing right over the Indian bathtubs now. Here's where the water is flowing into the tubs, or into one of the tubs. This is a rather large one, flowing down into one down below. There's one that is not getting any fresh water right at this time, but as you can see, depending on what the water flow in the creek is, various tubs will be either full or filled with fresh water. But a very neat little area here. Alright, here's another view of the Indian bathtubs. You have these tubs being filled by the flow of the river currently. And then you've got a couple over here that were filled earlier when the creek was flowing higher. When we got back to the lodge, we decided to do something a little bit different. Look for the old, forgotten, and virtually lost Coulterville Free Trail. This was the trail that John Muir used when he first went to Yosemite many years ago. You can barely discern a trail here, but there is one. It's overgrown with grass, and it's barely discernible. But this was the Coulterville Free Trail. It was the first trail from the west that was used by tourists to get into Yosemite Valley. Start to see the trail a little bit more clearly now. There were routes that came in from the east, but this was the only trail, like I said, that was used by any kind of tourists to get to Yosemite Valley.